right, after only a month or so delay, let's talk about the greatest waiver claim in Coyotes history. And no, we are not talking about Connor Ingram. That is a little bit of recency bias, though he might end up being by the end of it. But let's talk about Ilya Bryzgalov. As you can tell, I started scripting the video whenever Arizona Sports History tweeted it out on November 17th, so only about a month delay. I'm getting a little better for the bigger projects. Anyway, November 17th, 2007, Phoenix claims goaltender Ilya Bryzgalov off of waivers from Anaheim. He just won a cup with them the previous season, and I think it was because they just added Jonas Hiller. So they had J.S. Jaguar, Jonas Hiller. They didn't really need Ilya Bryzgalov anymore, and he makes his debut that night, famously wearing the blank white helmet in a 2-1 win over the LA Kings in LA, so not a very far bit for him to travel. 27 saves, solid debut. He impresses the team so much that on January 22nd, 2008, so only a couple of months after they claimed him, they signed him to a 3-year, $12.75 million contract, and honestly, it's probably worth every penny. So, the rest of his stats for the 07-08 season, for Anaheim, he only played in about 9 games, 2-3-1 record, 2.55 goals against, a 909 save percentage, solid, respectable numbers. Immediately comes in, and he's a 20-win goaltender, 25-win plus, actually. 26, 22, and 5, 242 goals against, 921 save percentage with 3 shutouts. He was excellent. I don't think people that didn't get to watch him play realized just how good Ilya Bryzgalov was, and he showed it very early, very much going to be worth that contract. It didn't start out the hottest, though. So, 08-09, 26, 31, and 6 record, borderline the same, a few more games played, 298 goals against, 906 save percentage, 3 shutouts, a little bit of a down year. It's not exactly so far off, it wasn't a horrid year or anything, but you know, maybe people are like, oh wow, maybe the contract's not going to age too well. I don't really remember much of the discourse back in the day, but in 2009, 2010, he plays in a massive amount of games, 42, 20, and 6. The dude dropped a 40 spot in wins. When is the last time we saw that? Nikolai Habibulin? No, I'm not going to fact check. I'm talking about Ilya Bryzgalov today. 229 goals against, 920 save percentage, 8 shutouts. I don't know how. I don't know how you manage that. 3 shutouts both the previous seasons. He just drops 8. Again, this dude was ridiculous. Ilya Bryzgalov was a phenomenal goaltender for the Coyotes. In the playoffs that year, 3-4 record against the Red Wings, 343 goals against, 906 save percentage. So apparently he was a pretty big Halo fan before the 3-4-3 switch. That joke's pretty old. Anyway, 8 shutouts. He was a Vezina runner-up, and he was top 5 in Hart voting. Yeah, the Coyotes, like, they actually had a legitimate MVP candidate in Ilya Bryzgalov. It cannot be, like, understated just how good this guy was wearing the Coyotes uniform. He also was rocking one of these, the good old Flying Fox, so I had to throw that one on for you. His final season in Arizona, 2010-2011, 36 wins, 20 losses, 10 overtime losses. Pretty consistent, actually, right around 20 losses a year, at least 26 wins a year. And it improves, obviously, 248 goals against, 921 save percentage, 7 more shutouts. Then you go into the playoffs, they get swept by the Red Wings. 0-4, 436 goals against, 879 save percentage, and as excellent as Bryzgalov was, especially in the regular season, and sometimes it just doesn't work, sometimes it's the additions on defense weren't good enough, sometimes he just wasn't good enough, you're talking about whatever goaltender, they needed to change, and he ends up signing this massive 9-year contract with Philadelphia that I think they just got out of paying, because I bought him out not long after. I do plan on finally bringing back career of videos, so I actually already have this scripted, but I wanted to talk about him as a waiver claim for the Coyotes first, and then we could do a career of later. But his Phoenix totals, in retrospect, yes, at this time, no matter how good he was, when it came to the biggest stage in the playoffs, it just didn't work. They bring in Mike Smith the next year, the rest is history. All right, as much as I love this dude here, all right, I'm always going to be a fan of Bryzgalov, it was time to move on. But You know what? Whenever you move on, when it's time to move on, you get to fondly remember people. 257 games played, 130 wins, 93 losses, 27 overtime losses, a career 254 goals against. That is solid. 917 save percentage, 21 shutouts. And let's go ahead and just look at his mark on the franchise. So, he is second in games played. He was first for a goaltender. Now it's Mike Smith. He is still first in wins. Mike Smith has 128. Bryzgalov has 130. As good as Mike Smith's run objectively was, Bryzgalov is still the king. He is sixth overall in goals against with 254. Seventh in save percentage with 917. There's a pretty solid amount of goaltenders posting decent save percentages, but I think it also they can do some funky numbers with stuff like that. Anyway, he is second in shutouts. He was first at the time. Mike Smith is 22. Mike Smith beats him out by 1. So if you subtract Mike Smith from the equation, Bryzgalov is the best goaltender in Coyotes history. You add Mike Smith back in, Bryzgalov is one of the best goaltenders in Coyotes history. Literally, just to put it in perspective, he outperformed. I think he played a couple more games, obviously a couple more games, but he pretty much outperformed in most regards Nikolai Khabibulin, who is the most legendary goaltender in the franchise's history, at the very least the Phoenix side. And I'm not using that to trash the Bulin Wall. We are fans of the Bulin Wall in this household. But just shows how much better the Bridgeland Wall was. Yeah, we tried that nickname for a while. It's mostly just Bridgie. You call him Bridgie, but Ilya Bryzgalov legitimately was, and still is currently, the greatest waiver claim in Coyotes history, as good as Ingram's been. And he has the potential. Connor Ingram can do this. He can take over. He can become the number one starter. He's already kind of starting that path. The fact that when he left after 3.5 seasons, essentially, when he leaves, he is first in games played. He's only been dethroned by one goaltender since. He is still first in wins. He was number 1 in shutouts, and now, again, number 2, but he literally was the leading goaltender in multiple different categories, important categories in the franchise's history by the time he left, and he was only here for 3.5 years. 257 games, and honestly, got a fun little Bryzgalov story to end you off on. So, when I was a kid, Bridgie was known. His quote is hilarious. It's only a game. Well, you have to be mad. It's one of the funniest things because he got angry a lot. I've seen this dude break his stick way too many times. So there was one time I was over by the Coyotes tunnel. It was near the end of a game. He's hopping off the ice, and he's putting his stick up into the crowd. I grabbed it right at the handle, right where he'd put his blocker hand on. There were 2 more kids. One grabbed the knob. One grabbed the big, thick little paddle end, and I looked at both of them like, I will swing this stick at you. And until I got rid of all my collectibles in 2014 after high school, I had an Ilya Bryzgalov game stick that I wish I wasn't stupid. I wish I would have kept that. So there's a fun little story. Here is the greatest waiver claim in Coyotes history. And hey, when are we putting Bridgie in the Ring of Honor? I'm not saying retire his number, but I think Bryzgalov should be honored for what he did in just 3.5 seasons.